Hi everyone, it's Nick with Build Up Advisory Group and it's Fast Build Fridays, a web series where we will quickly build what you know about infrastructure design in the nonprofit sector. Today's Fast Build topic is the role of systemic racism in infrastructure. Yes, we're going there. I'm not sure why this murder of George Floyd, of yet another black man, finally resonates with society because there have been so many murders of black people, particularly black men, that have happened before that deserve this kind of attention. So many names. After all these years, perhaps enough is finally enough. I'm envious of that ability to live in a world where you are not stung by each murder of an unarmed black man or woman for doing often ordinary, everyday things like jogging, being in your own home, eating ice cream, or wearing a hoodie. And you don't have to live in fear of you or your loved one being next. I don't have the luxury of ignoring racism or not realizing it is alive and well in 2020. Why am I talking about all of this on a Fast Build Friday episode? For a few reasons. First, my infrastructure practice focuses on organizations that work with marginalized and vulnerable communities. And my clients are all brave. Bravery is a prerequisite to work with me. And they use their platforms to show up for those who are voiceless because they know they have to. I'm doing the same. I'm also a black woman with a black family with two little girls who I want to be valued and who I want the world to acknowledge as human beings, not as outsiders or objects that can be snuffed out based simply on unsubstantiated fear and bias. I'm also married to a black man who was afraid to wear a mask in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic because he was worried about not making it home alive. Not because of the health crisis, but because he, like many of my black male friends, was afraid of someone feeling afraid, pulling an Amy Cooper, and being killed as a result of that fear. And you know what? I couldn't say his fears were baseless because I think of Philando Castile, who was driving with his family, whose family could have been mine. And those 7 shots lit up that car with a 4-year-old little girl inside of it. And because Black Lives Matter too. We are human beings to be valued just like everyone else. And I don't think the nonprofit sector is immune from this systemic racism. In fact, we structure and build on top of it. The question is, how do we start to dismantle this system to ensure that our infrastructure is strong enough to support the marginalized and vulnerable communities around the globe? Here are my 4 suggestions. First, diversify your board and your executive team. Look at your 10-person, 15-person, whatever number person board or team, and if you only have 1 or 2 black people on it, then change your board and employee recruitment practices, your retention practices, and your engagement practices. And let's be clear, until you are actively trying to put a sizable number of progressive black people on your board in particular, you are engaged in tokenism, not diversity. Second, diversify your vendors and advisors. Run some numbers. I know this sector loves its data. How many black vendors do you engage, particularly as your preferred vendors? Increase that number. And you talk a big game, but then engage advisors who look nothing like the black and brown communities you are claiming to serve when you want to do something significant or transformational within your organization. Make vendor and advisor diversity part of your metrics for success. In fact, demand it. Third, place those big bet grants on black-led organizations and question when you see a pattern of big bets going solely or predominantly to white-led organizations. And make sure you also place these big bets on smaller grassroots black-led organizations that are often closer to the problems that communities they are serving are facing and may have different solutions and approaches than what you have seen. Trust them. Let them experiment and give them the funding and space to do it, in much the same way you often trust and experiment with white-led organizations. Deliberately change your organization's risk management approach so that it does not continue to perpetuate systemic racism. And finally, particularly when you are in a position of power, speak up when you see that your Black colleagues are being excluded from conversations or being treated as another. Silence at this point is complicity. So pick a side. In this moment, you either agree that Black lives matter or you think that they don't. Fence sitting and straddling the middle are not options. Neither are platitudes about standing with Black colleagues but not doing anything to change things. You need to put your commitments about changing, doing more, and learning into action. Until the sector starts to act this bravely, this system supporting our infrastructure should be burnt to the ground. And that's our fast build. I want to hear how you are all doing. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Be safe, take care, and keep building bravely.